Day 51. I'm reading Reader Come Home by Marian Wolf. Letter 9, page 188. Reader Come Home. There are two quotes. The first one goes, "To read, we need a certain kind of silence." That seems increasingly elusive in our over-networked society. And it is not contemplation we desire, but an odd sort of distraction. Distraction masquerading as being in the know. In a such landscape, knowledge can help but fall prey to illusion, albeit an illusion that is deeply seductive, with its promise that speed can lead us to illumination, that it is more important to react than to think deeply. Reading is an act of contemplation, an act of resistance in a landscape of distraction. It returns us to a reckoning with time. David Olin. The second one, past a certain scale there is no descent form a technological choice. What therefore can turn us back into the sphere of our being that joins us to our home, to each other, and to other creatures? I think it is love, a particular love, requiring stands and acts, and it implies a responsibility arising out of generosity. I think that this sort of love defines the effective range of human intelligence. Wendell Berry. My dear reader, when I was very young, I thought that good reader meant that one could read all the books that filled two tiny shelves in the back of the two-room schoolhouse. When I began to study in places where books were so many that they filled multiple library buildings with levels deep under the ground, I thought that good reader must mean reading as many of those books as possible and making their knowledge one's own. When I was a young teacher in a place whose teachers had long left, my only thought was that if I could not help those children become good readers, they would never leave the borders of their families' indentured lives. When I first became a researcher, I chaffed with studies would compare good readers with children with dyslexia, who worked harder than most anyone else to understand the text. Finally, when I studied what the brain does when it retrieves the meanings of words, I learned that every meaning I possessed for a good reader would be activated whenever I think of it. I had added a new meaning, as discussed earlier. In the Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle wrote that a good society has three lives: the life of knowledge and productivity, the life of entertainment within the Greek special understanding of leisure, and finally the life of contemplation. So too, the good reader. There is the first life of good reader in gathering information and acquiring knowledge. We are awash in this life. There is the second life, in which reading various forms of entertainment are to be found in abundance. The sheer distraction and exquisite pleasure of immersion in stories of other lives, in articles about mysterious, newly discovered exoplanets, in poems that steal our breath away, whether we choose to escape in bodies ripping romance, enter the painstakingly recreated worlds in novels by Katsuo Ishiguro, Abraham Verghese, or Elena Ferrant. Exercise our wits in mysteries by John Irving, or in biographies of Saint by G.K. Chesterton, or Presidents by Doris Kearns Goodwin, or discover our species' epic genetic journey with Siddhartha Mukherjee or Yuval Noah We read to take this most economic transport away from our frantically pursued everyday lives. The third life of the good reader is the culmination of reading and the terminus of the other two lives, the reflective life, in which, whatever genre we are reading, we enter a totally invisible personal realm, our private holding ground, where we can contemplate all the manner of human existence and ponder a universe whose real mysteries dwarf any of our imagination. John Dewey wrote that our culture fully embodies Aristotle's first two lives of a good society, but recedes every day from the third, the contemplative one. So too, I think, the third life of a good reader. Years ago, the philosopher Martin Heidegger felt that the great danger in an age of technological ingenuity like ours is that it could spawn an indifference toward meditative thinking. Then man would have denied and thrown away his own special nature, that he is a meditative being. Therefore, the issue is the saving of man's essential nature, the keeping of the meditative thinking alive. There is no shortage of contemporary observers of our digital culture who worry like Heidegger, maybe, that the meditative dimension in human beings is threatened by an overwhelming emphasis on materialism and consumerism, by a fractured relationship with time. As Teddy Wayne wrote in the New York Times, digital media trains us to be high bandwidth consumers rather than meditative thinkers. We download it or stream a song, article, book, or movie instantly, get through it. If we were not waylaid by the infinite inventory also offered, and advance to the next immaterial things. Or, as Stephen Wasserman asked in Truthdig, does the ethos of acceleration prized by the internet diminish our capacity for deliberation and unfeeble our capacity for genuine reflection? Does the daily avalanche of information banish the space needed for actual wisdom? Readers know, in their bones, something we forget at our peril, that without books, indeed without literacy, the good society vanishes and barbarism triumphs. Barbarism. Okay, I should stop here. Please correct me if you can. Thank you.